And of course, on that note, let me just bring you in before I go to the next newspaper here. Abdilahi, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
On this story, what do you make of this? Raila expect to drop a bombshell at Kamkunji today?
Well, I think it is his right in our constitution to drop the bombshell, but I think the bombshell was dropped by the Supreme Court. That what he's going to tell us mainly is about maybe how the election was rigged, the servers were not opened, there's quote-unquote a whistleblower. There's nothing information we're going to get. I mean, Article 140, I think, to settle those matters when the Supreme Court said the election was fair, free, and verifiable. So for him as an opposition leader, he's a statesman in this country. He has done a lot in pursuit of power as a person. He's a man who has been around for some time. So he's also coming back as an infrastructure representative for the AU, meeting African leaders or different parts of people. But I think he's coming around midday, and let him, he's free to go and tell us what he wants to tell, and then Kenyans will make sense of what he's saying. If it is political gimmicks and the normal opposition rhetorics in the country, or politicians, the way they always do things, it's okay. But what is important is let's have a very peaceful demonstration. We should give them enough security. Let them go there, let them exercise their freedom of speech, and then let's be very mature about what he's doing.
But Wakili, constitutionally is allowed to picket and hold peaceful demonstrations. But what will change? Now the bombshell is here. He's going to give the revelations as far as that is concerned. What will it change?
I don't see anything much changing, save for he's trying to appeal to his stronghold. You realize that he took a beating in the election, and it has been very difficult for him to make a political comeback. So basically, you know, this is the usual Raila. Baba, well, you are away stories. You remember how they gave him a comeback after the last 2017 election. He was, I think, away for 3 months. And same speed. I think that is his strategy. I don't know whether it's going to work the way it worked in the 2017, but this time I think he's really battered politically, so he will need a miracle. He will need a miracle to transform his political fortunes. But nonetheless, you never write off Raila. He's a man you think is totally finished, and then he just starts a small thing, and then it goes viral among his political base, and he has a very loyal base. So that his success will be dependent on whether actually how the government of the day behaves. You know, the government of the day is bound to be blamed on a daily basis. There is the food crisis, there is the electricity, there is the petroleum. So each of these things are things which, if you petrify Kenyans politically and tell them, see, this is what you were promised, this is what you are having. So we could have provided better. And you see what these guys are doing, they are actually even taxing you more. So once you mention those things to the hustlers, once you mention those things to the hustlers in Kenya, they are bound to make people ask some fundamental questions which the government of the day might not be able to answer. You remember the government might need like a year or 2 or 3 to settle. Peaceful to settle.
Exactly.
And the trick of Raila, or the genius in Raila, is to actually attack them while they are on their low and start now putting them on their defense. When government is continually put on defense, they are likely to make mistakes, or they are bound to make more mistakes.
That is just a preamble. We are going to get into the details shortly, but let me just take you through the pages here of the Standard newspaper. On the front page, fresh headache for teachers as schools reopen. Fresh headache for teachers as schools reopen, from challenges of CBC and junior secondary to mass recruitment and training of tutors. The climb is steep for stakeholders as parents rue the high cost of taking their children back to institutions that resume a normal calendar. It has been a very tough 2-year period after the corona happened. Bring it on. Ruto dares Raila on Kamkunji rally. President says that there is no room for intimidation or handshake in spite of threats by opposition to further the narrative that elections was stolen in today's Kamkunji rally. How it's going to turn out will be interesting to see. Still on the front page, Chebukati's team faces Masit in election tribunal. That happens. I'll give you details shortly. And of course, the story continues to say that difficult times for parents as schools reopen after long break, 2 months. 2 months, and now students are going back. New hurdles for administrators as schools revert to old calendar. The biggest issue rather, is finding space for the approximately 1.2 million grade 7 students. More than 13,000 schools have met the Ministry of Education's requirements for junior secondary schools. Numbers there. School reform is entering revolutionary phase this year, but the country isn't ready. A discussion and something that has been spoken over and over again. I'll ask Wakili here to tell me, Nyambaria, Mkisi is in the lips of many, and how it is. Azimio raises storm of election results ahead of Kamkunji rally. President Ruto claims that the meeting is a decoy by Raila to demand a handshake and join the government. Azimio has appealed to the public to come out in large numbers and attend the rally. And finally on that, Azimio hopes for handshake deal, says Ruto. Is it? Wakili, is it?
In this country, you never know until something happens. Politically, you never write off something.
Yes.
So the fact that we were able to have the handshake in a first in 2007, 2008, then it was later, I think, 2018 thereabout. So you can never write off
anything. Can happen.
Yeah, in politics, anything can happen. For anything for power. And I think we also look at on the other side is that Kenyans end up gaining.
What do you make of this one, Abdilahi? Because when you talk with the president, it's been something that been talking about since day one, that Raila is yearning for a handshake and they are not ready for that. You know, there is a gentleman called Murphy. In Murphy's law, Murphy says that if you want a loan, first of all, you have to prove that you don't want it. So is the government yearning for Raila to come to government, but on the other side they're saying we don't want you, so that if at all it happens, then they'll get a softer landing or a punching bag to say we told you.
But I think even if they do not want to have the experience of 2018 much. I remember it was only a year, barely a year, when there was a handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. People felt Raila betrayed them, and they were blaming Uhuru for bringing on Raila. One is to destroy his base by making sure that he pulls him away from the streets, give him some goodies, so that he can govern the country very peacefully. But now, if Ruto and Gachagua today agree that they are going to have a handshake, what kind of a handshake will they have?
Exactly.
Okay? If they do, how will the hustlers react to that?
Or even the formation of the government, because now
before we reach the formation of the government, the country belongs to people under Article 1. They are the ones who are sovereign. So they put you into power to exercise those powers. Now, unless you consult them and tell them, what do we do with this guy, you go the way Uhuru went, then you'll still have the backlash Uhuru had. So, Raila, if again he goes into handshake, it's also going to destroy his political, base in 2027.
Yes.
So politics has already started in Kenya.
I think
we realized that these guys were at Harambee House that morning in March. We didn't know, but there were rumors.
Even Junet Mohammed said that he was just called and said, come.
But
they didn't know.
If you have friends in the intelligence and you are informed within the government machinery, there was, rumors and gossips that the former president's family and the Raila Odinga's family, especially the mothers and the wives, were behind the scene coordinating some of these things. Remember, these are the oligarchs of this country for a very long time. So you might, it's what they tell us, okay? But when they go to the bars and the houses and the private, launches, there are things they discuss, and that's how politics works. So I am sure when you see like Ruto's card is a politician who I always say he plays the card of checkmate. He sends Mudavadi to do things, then Musalia Wetangula does something similar, then the bullfighter does, you know, so they're checkmates. That's how they operate. So that no one feels he's too powerful and very close to the president.
Yes.
So now that Raila is back today, it's a working day. So what happens, you know, why did he choose Monday? Why didn't he do it on Saturday or wait for next week? So he has a certain agenda and you know, going to the streets or having this kind of big gatherings, it is a way of putting pressure to the government. So the government will, that's why you could see the president, the deputy president responding.
It's a talk of timing.
Of timing,
exactly.
and putting pressure on the government.
Yes.
Now, when he goes to Kamkunji today, and he speaks to us, he's speaking to us from what we are speaking about, against the government.
Okay.
So you see, so that will attract some people like, yes, it's true, even if he's an opposition, he did not get the presidency, yes, but some of the things he's talking about are very true.
All right.
You see, so that's what he's going to do, but will there be a possibility of a handshake? You can't say no in Kenya.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Gentlemen, let me just take the first paper here, that is the Star. On the front page, actually most of in all the headlines here on the Standard, on the Star, it's all about education, and this headline here is KCSE anomalies, MPs, experts demand probe. MPs and experts demand probe. Inquiries by the Star lay bare secret schemes schools used for massive cheating. All right, revealed what US think tanks say of Ruto and Raila August contest. The think tank says that Vanguard Africa said a trove of election data yet to be proven as accurate and valid and provided by an anonymous whistleblower from inside IBC shows that the poll results had discrepancies. Okay? And based on the analysis, Vanguard Africa founding director Jeffrey Smith said discrepancies are sufficient to cast doubt on the validity of the final result announced by the IEBC. And at this particular point, Wakili, you know, in the Kenyan system, the Supreme Court is the apex court, and everything that goes there is final. But do we have limitation on such kind of cases as far as this is concerned?
Yeah, there's a very clear limitation in the Constitution that once the Supreme Court defines itself on certain matter issues, political, presidential, at the presidential issue, then that is final. You never have an opportunity to appeal anywhere. So that is with finality. So that part, maybe whatever it is that this whistleblower wants to come up with, I think it's something which ought to have been done before the election, which could have really brought the evidence to the court so that the court can be able to make a finding on it. You remember the issue of Kamago?
Yes.
I tend to relate the aspect of this whistleblower to the intrigues which the Azimio people had around Kamago issue, which turned out to be hot air, because they were trying to sell a story to Kenyans that, you know, Jose Kamago's name is here. But then when you go deep down into the evidence, when they were asked basic questions about the Kamago issue, it turned out to be just a trick which they were trying to play to the public. They were trying to play to the public gallery to hoodwink the unsuspecting members of the country, because I don't think you can lie to a civilized Kenyan, somebody who has done IT, somebody who has done law, and combine those two aspects that you know, the aspect of Kamago's name being could have led to an election malpractice, which could have turned an election. I think
Jose Kamago is a celebrity in Kenya.
Yes, yes.
Kenyan
so
right
when
now,
you sensationalize things in that particular manner, and sell a story to Kenyans, which is very hot, it becomes very hot, and people are like, yes, this is what we have been told, and it's here. And you know, I will give it to the Azimio team. They really have a good show.
But do we have a judicial restriction to discuss this matter? Yes, the case is final. It's been sealed by the Supreme Court. But do we have judicial restriction for Raila Odinga even to discuss this matter outside the court?
There is none. There is none. I think for political purposes, we can go as far as we want because there's no limitation. The court has decided, but then, you know, whatever now you discuss is, because when a case is done, it becomes functus official according to the judicial system. But politically, nothing stops you, especially when you now start bringing people who are claiming to be whistleblowers and such things. Which thing, you know, politically or legally you could have brought actually before court, but you didn't. So it means you didn't know. It's now coming out now. Now we will have to canvass it in the political surrounding, in the social circles of Kenyans, and discuss it to conclusion. Of course, there is the court of public opinion. Right. So that is where it will actually make much more sense. Because the judicial one, not so many people understand what went in there. But the one of the public opinion, you will have people tell you off, even if they have never attended any law training. They will actually dismiss you officially in a public court of law, and you will be like, okay, let me, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but you keep your opinion.
Yes. Politically, Raila is right to go ahead with the discussion and what have you. But do you think the Kenya Kwanza administration should ignore Raila altogether? Abdi?
Well, they should not ignore him per se, but they should be ahead of him, in the sense that if there are circles within him, they're discussing certain agendas, they should also speak to the same, so that it does not look like Raila is the one advocating for good governance, and the people who are elected to office are doing misgovernance. So I think they should, you know, there is nothing that Kenya Kwanza does that Raila doesn't know. There is nothing that, you know, Jubilee and, you know, Azimio guys do that Ruto doesn't know. These guys have friends within themselves, what you call in Kenya moles. So right now, there is a lot of attraction towards the government. Yes. Because the government has goodies. Okay, people will be calling the president, the deputy president, Musalia Mudavadi. So there are people who are going to these guys and even volunteering information so that they access, either they get sympathy or access some goodies. So they should not ignore him per se, but I think they should be ahead of him. That is one. Speaking to what my colleague talked about, that case, the presidential petition, I think it's under Article 142, is done and dusted. It's done. So Raila can go, like Mother Karua went to East Africa.
Yeah, East African Court of Justice.
Court of Justice. It's within her rights. And you should know that we have a constitution, a reformist constitution that took us almost 60, you know, how many, we have amended almost 30 times to arrive to the one we have today. So I want people to know that there is freedom of expression in this country. So one of it is that we did not have it much during Kenyatta and Moi. Okay. So now people can vent. Okay.
Hold on to that. Yes. Let's hold on to that thought. Kidogo, let's take a break and we come back. I'll still give you time to circle back and give me your opinion. We still have so much to talk about, because as far as this is concerned, on that issue of why the Kenya Kwanza administration should not ignore Raila Odinga. It starts like this, and we all know how it all started in 2017, 2018 until 2022. It was all politics all through to 2022. So gentlemen, let's take a break. When we come back, so much more on Iron Politics. And welcome back. Now, you are on the floor of the House. Abdi, you can just pick it from where you left.
What you are saying now is that, where were we? We were discussing?
Okay, let me remind you, the whole issue of Raila, the government should not ignore Raila Odinga.
No, they can't. Yes. And we said the only way to make sure that Raila does not run away with the show because of what Kenyans are complaining about.
Is for the Kenya Kwanza to be ahead
Kenya
of
Kwanza to deliver to their promises, especially the cost of food. So that in the next 2 harvests, fertilizer, there was a report today that the fertilizer, I think it was in Business Daily, the fertilizer is not going the way they were saying. They should make sure that the fertilizer is cheap at 3,500, so that in the next 2 harvests, there is enough supply from production in agriculture, so that food costs can go down. Then from there, they should work on inflation. Then from there, they should work on unemployment. That way, they can, survive Raila. But if they do not deliver on the promises, and what you told us is not what you are doing, you're talking to us every day with a lot of rhetorics, then Raila is going to run away with the show. He does that very, he has this fanatical following across the country, even though, the current president, William Ruto, is making, his advances in Western Kenya, in part of, and in part of the Gusii community, the coast region, Northeastern Duale is working on a lot of things. So he's trying to make sure that he eats into the base of Raila. But Raila will do what he did best, always run with the show. People will come, Kenyans. Those Kamukunji will create a narrative by 6 p.m. today. We will be talking about some issues, and that's what he wants. And as long as you are engaging the public in the current debate of what is affecting the ordinary man, then the onus is of the government to prove that what Raila is saying is not true. Otherwise, he's going to keep them on their toes.
Absolutely. So there is that story where President spoke yesterday and said that Raila Odinga is being sponsored by some cartels. The sugar, the tea, milk, coffee cartels who are sponsoring and financing Raila Odinga. We'll get that story briefly. Director, please, if you have that story, just get ready for me. But much as this is happening, Wakili, the whistleblower is from IBC. Yes, Vanguard Africa says that, it cast a lot of doubt and credibility test on Kenya Kwanza administration. What do you think the president should do to remain afloat and to remain relevant amidst all these allegations?
I think the best thing the president should do, first of all, is first not to comment about the issues of politics. I think him being the lead man in the front needs to craft a strategy and have people going to handle the political gimmicks for him, so that he can concentrate on organizing Kenya and putting key infrastructure administratively to deliver to what it is that he promised Kenyans, as Abdilahi said, because that is the clearest way to actually be able to defeat Raila. Of course, as long as he will be on a back and forth answering with Raila, and that's what Raila enjoys, is giving more credibility to Raila than he should. So that is for the start. Secondly, there are some basic things which we expect to see. You remember now he is fully formed government.
Yes.
We expect to see the president move with his team now, move with speed and ensure that the jobs are there, ensure that people, the food on the table is something which is already a tackled issue. Because as long as you don't tackle electricity, fuel and food on the table of Kenyans, you're going to have a political challenge, given that that is what matters to Kenyans. Remember, schools are opening. There's a lot of confusion still around the junior secondary. So those are some of the issues which you should be able to concentrate on. And once government makes policies or keeps making statements which bring Kenyans to keep asking more questions, they start wondering who is in charge, what is going on. And this is the right time for Raila to sneak in and tackle and take the hustlers. Taking the hustlers is very easy from Ruto's.
You talk to the things that close to their hearts.
You speak to their hearts. And that's what Raila is trying to do. And the president needs to be very keen to deliver. And as long as you say that, provided the Kenyans are sure that you've delivered 1, 2, 3, and you've told them how you're going to tackle the next, they might be telling Raila that, Mzee, hold your horses fast. But that is impossible now.
All right. So let's take a look at that story. The president spoke yesterday. The deputy spoke yesterday. Let's just hear what he said. Press play, director.
That we will not allow our country to be a hostage to threats and blackmail by a few people who are looking for their personal interest We are going to serve all Kenyans equally, irrespective of how they voted, because we want to move our country to the next level.
Hii mambo ya hii mzee tuachie. Dawa ya hii mtu ni mtoto ya maumau. Wewe kaa kando. Kaa kando. Wewe rais, please endelea na mambo ya uchumi, utusaidie. Mambo ya Hustlers Fund, utusaidie. Utafute pesa ya kulipa barabara, uniunge mkono na hawa, utusaidie. Mambo ya chai, kahawa, mchele, tusaidie. Mambo ya hii mzee, wewe kaa kando.
The head of state maintains he is focused on delivering unity and development to all parts of the country and will not entertain destruction.
Mimi siwezi kuruhusu ati watu wachache waende kona pale, ati watupangie njama ya kututisha, ati wanatupangia sijui maandamano, ati sisi tuache kushughulikia mahitaji ya wananchi wa Kenya, ati sisi tukuje hapo ati tushughulikie mahitaji yao. Wamezoea hiyo tabia, lakini we are telling them the end has come. There is no more. Ile mulipata kwa vitisho sasa iwatoshe. Wacha sasa tufanyie kazi wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Kama hawakukuweza, walipokunyanyasa, wamekuacha nje, wamedhulumu kila mtu ambaye amekuongelesha, watakuwezaje sasa? Umesonga karibu zaidi na Mungu, alafu huko na serikali. I don't know whether you know there was a meeting in Mombasa ya viongozi kadhaa na wanajijua, and I'll tell you their names. Nao ndio wana finance huyu mzee, na ndo tunataka kuambia hata wao wafanye nini, wakome.
Na kwa hiyo maandamano mimi nitakuombea ruhusa hata kwa rais wetu, ikiwezekana hata serikali ipelekee watu maji pale.
Abdilahi, what do you make of that? Hata serikali wapelekee maji pale.
Yeah, they're enjoying them. I mean, they're just teasing them, which is a political, you know, bar. You take a you knock at them, you punch them a little bit. I think it's on a lighter note. But I think you heard the president. You saw the body language.
Yes.
Very authoritative. I am in charge. I am not going to accept. I'm no longer the deputy president. You are using your friend to harass me. But now, is it acceptable for President William Ruto to accept a handshake if we will have riots and you know, demonstrations in Nairobi? He will have to come to the table. What will they discuss is something that remains to be seen then. But right now, Raila is seeing a gap. What will have happened still? Remember, appointments are still coming thick and fast. He should settle. And he should avoid answering to Raila all the time. When you are the president, there is certain demeanor that should be around you. You are state, you know, property. You are a symbol
of power,
yes,
remains scarce.
You are a symbol of unity. So right now, President William Ruto is not campaigning. He is in the State House. He has been sworn to protect and defend the Constitution and serve Kenyans equally, including Raila, because he's the president now. Raila is 78. Ruto is 56. Raila is older, 22 years older than him. But today, Ruto is the president. So the kind of political, you know, tactics Ruto has used is one, Ruto is more generous than Raila, the perception out there. If you talk to people who have worked with the deputy president, the former the president, William Ruto, you will hear that he is generous. You will see that from the church. He came on national TV and said, I have built more mosques in madrasa than most Muslims. So in my culture, within the Somali, we say that, you know, decisions are only two. Oloo. One depends here. You know what goes here? Here. One decision that determines everything about why do men fight? Men fight over resources and power. So once you take care of these amai, the rest will take care of themselves. Like if you have a dog at home, and I'm not trying to say Kenyans are dogs, but I'm using it symbolically, and every day you are the guy always giving it, you know, a liver, a lungs of a goat, a piece of meat, you know, tapping it and patting it, then the other guy who just walks in and walks out, every time you come home, the dog will wag the tail, okay, and be friendly. But the other guy to just lie down and say, this one doesn't even provide me with anything. Even the animals.
Yes.
Because we keep camel, we keep goats, we keep cattle. We know how relationships with human beings are. So Ruto is going to beat Raila in that hand. Okay? Look at the, you know, the soldiers, the foot soldiers for Raila. They have gone silent. Okay?
That perhaps for a reason.
Yeah, one of the reasons is this. The next 5 years, Raila is outside government.
It could be because, you know, in politics, talk when it's necessary.
No, it's not just necessarily. Politicians, when, you know, these guys have already gone into parliament.
Yeah.
So there's no election. Before election, Raila will just say, you go home.
Okay.
Now we have another 5 years.
Okay, let me just ask you, by the end of today, Raila is coming back and, you know, the bombshell quote in quote as they put it. So what's going to change? Move for the next couple of months, all right? He'll come with all the evidence that probably he'll, you know, obtained from the whistleblower. So what will change politically?
The perception. What
to his advantage.
What Raila is trying to do is to sell a perception or to sell his name to Kenyans. Now we're talking about him in a morning show. All Kenyans are watching. So in the evening they will be talking about him more, because he will have spoken, I want to imagine, about things which they are very keen and they want to hear about. The cost of food, the cost of taking kids to school. We'll be able to talk about elections, how he lost. You know, that one he will be appealing to his masses. With food, he will be appealing to every hustler in this country. So he will be a talking point for the next month or so, and that is what he wants, to get back to where he was before election. And once he achieves that, he will go home and rest and be smiling. The rest now, he will leave it to government to keep battling about, because you must answer Kenyans all these questions. Once he needs just one political rally to destabilize government for the next 1 month or so, and they will keep making statements and counter statements, which will, of course, be able to make them look like they don't know what they're doing. Yes.
When you look at the variation, the gap, according to the whistleblower, Raila had purportedly had 8 million to President Ruto 5 million. That's a difference of 3 million votes. Now you can imagine 3 million Kenyans saying that there is a gap of 3 million. The president now will have time, or will have that task, to convince Kenyans that that is not the correct situation. It is 200,000 that I defeated Raila Odinga, and that is the state, and it will remain so for the next 5 years. Do you really think now the president has an uphill task to prove to Kenyans and even the entire, you know, world at large, or even Africa, that he's legitimately in office, and whatever is being said by the whistleblower is just but, quote unquote, hot air?
From a perspective, the president is clear. I mean, looking at it, he didn't declare himself, he was declared by the IBC. Whoever claims that there was a difference of 3 million, that is the evidence he ought to have brought to the Supreme Court, but they never did. They never did. So, so to that part, I think that's a settled debate. But politically now, there's a problem. Politically, there's a problem when people are now saying, you stole it.
Should be concerned about.
Yes, that's what they should be concerned about, because when somebody starts saying, you stole my votes, and you know, Raila has been very clear that, you know, Chebukati is a criminal, he should be inside. You know, this is Raila is a good schemer, because he knows this is around the time that Raila has left office. And then the president the other day made a very clear statement that, you know, we are going to form a commission of inquiry or a tribunal to look into what happened at Bomas. You know, most of the things which happened at Bomas are the Azimio culpable.
Yes.
So it's only that the right time to come in and throw mud around so that everybody has mud, so that whenever you start pointing my mud, I already have pointed out yours. Because the tribunal is likely to come up with some culpability, which some people might actually, some recommendation that people might be held criminally liable. So, and these are your soldiers. We will will depend to cover you politically. So you will need to come in and counter it while it's still hot, before things, going ahead of things. You know, and that is the kind of political animal that Raila is. He's able to scheme well in advance. So it's as Ahmed said, I think it's the Kenya Kwanza only have got to be ahead of him. So they need to also be able to scheme in advance and be able to see him coming. I think for this one they didn't. Now that we are going to have this happening today, I think he's already scored.
Okay. Abdilahi, as you respond to that, you want to have a joint to that, but let me ask you, when the president spoke that there were some plans to murder IBC, former IBC chair of Chebukati, the other side of the opposition did not speak. They went silent. They waited for Chebukati to exit office officially, and the following day, Kioni was there with the press conference. We have this dossier here, you know, the whistleblower is from IBC. It was a attack of timing. So they waited for Chebukati to exit. He'll have no official and absolute authority to speak on behalf of IBC, then they strike. So at this particular point, based on what the president said, that they'll not be boxed into a corner for them to accept any form of handshake. Do you really think the president was seeing this coming, or even his think tanks, or even his advisors?
First of all, what Raila is doing is he's trying to fight the legitimacy of Kenya Kwanza government.
That is the thing.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Then you create a perception that these guys have stolen the election. But now Kenya is a unitary state with a constitution, okay? With a constitutional democracy. The Supreme Court, which is the apex court that discusses and has the jurisdiction to discuss this, has told us on the television, these guys have told us hot air, and whatever they brought here, there was that Soweto. Madam Soweto brought us hot air. So whatever you did was just, like I remember the deputy CJ trying to connote the perception of the Kamba dialect, that this was a drama, and the video, yeah. So it was more of a play, you know, folding before us. So the constitutional question has been settled on the matter of the presidential election. The President William Ruto did not declare himself the president. He was declared by a constitution that is mandated to handle elections. As my colleague has said, the issue that happened in Bomas, we also what happened. Ahmed Nasser, a senior lawyer, a senior counsel, a friend to William Ruto, said, and referring to the Narok Senator Oneldama, that if Kenya was a country where the rule of law is so much respected, you would have been in prison, because he was having rungu and running around. So what is that commission? That is to scare people within Azimio that if you continue this line, we will investigate, and then once you are liable for certain prosecution, you will go to court and then you will go to jail.
Yes.
You cannot take away that. And it's a mechanism by government to tell people, toe the line. You remember the KRA thing with Jubilee? You have 2 billion, 1.5, 40 billion doing this. Government is so powerful that you cannot fight the state. The state is very powerful. Now that Kioni is coming with this all information, even if they waited anything, do you think the intelligence did not brief the president?
Okay, but much as you're saying that, Wakili, you said that there is that aspect of court of public opinion. Okay, the Supreme Court did this part and we all agree to that. They say, it's final. But the court of public opinion as well will have their own predictions and, their own ruling. But
even in the court of opinion, we have close to 7 million plus who voted for Ruto. 6 plus voted for Raila. 8 million Kenyans did not vote. So even in the public opinion, and we are divided. Now,
that is now where Raila is now targeted.
Yes.
The undecided, the people who did not vote.
Yes.
How will it change the political landscape, Wakili?
The political landscape is going to change because we've seen Raila's soldiers go quiet. They even, we almost felt like they lost themselves. Once the success of today's meeting will give an impetus. We will a lot more see the leaders within rank of Azimio speaking with authority, because now once they come back in February, we are starting government and government activities start officially. So we will see a lot more political debates happening, a lot more checking, the checkmate aspect of government, which anyway the president has been saying, you check me. Now the checking has started. Yeah. So they are trying to lay a basis, and this is very timely for any political person to tell you that Raila must have calculated this timing so that it comes at the right time, so that it becomes the man of the hour, so that at the end of the day, people will be speaking him, he will give his people something to push government about, and government will always have something to defend themselves about. Okay.
The tribunal is also resuming today.
Yes, exactly.
Against the IEBC. And the three other commissioners, including Chebukat, I think are going to appear today. So it's a timing that this tribunal, according to Azimio, is working against them. So how do you divide the attention of the country and say, you know, people will be glued to the television watching these things or social media. So you create another narrative that people's mind say, oh, Kumbe Raila is also coming. But Kenya politics, as we know, it's what you call auctioning of tribal arithmetics and deep, you know, pockets. Yes. Ruto has the upper hand right now. Okay? He has the government, he has the appointment, okay? He has the state, power within himself. What he should do right now is to say, let's have people who will counter Raila on television. The government works in a very miraculous way, Oloo. So what you do now is, even the deputy president should go slow on the Odinga issues. We should have people the strategists. Remember, before election, we had Professor Kisigani on Citizen all the time, advancing the narrative of UDA. Now, we need other team to come to all televisions to drive the narrative of Kenya Kwanza and say, as much as the former Prime Minister has all these rights to picket and do this, this is what the government is doing. This is what is happening. And then the president, we say it in this show and other places, in journalism dictum, you don't say, you show. You show. Let, like Kibaki, the actions and the services and activities of Kenya Kwanza speak to us than ranting and electioneering mood. Remember, I told you we need to discuss the politics of economics. Right now, the politics of election is gone. So the president should sit down and say, I have this country, I am a political animal, this is my experience, how do I make sure that, like today, last night, if you watch television, in Kenya, where parents were paying 1,000 to send their kids to school, they are paying 3,500. A book that costed 700 last term is 1,500. So cost has gone up by almost 150%. That is what should worry the president, not just responding to Raila all the time. There is a time Hasaras will ask President Ruto, did we actually respond to Raila all the time? Or we asked you to solve these issues that we have been grappling with the last 6 years? Kenyatta was talking about inequality, lack of clean water, food, insecurity. 60 years down the line, we are still talking about those issues. Okay. And the population has gone, up.
Let's take a break, and we come back. We're going to circle back to the final end of this one. Time is running so fast when having a good conversation. But then, Ruto said that Raila is being financed by the cartels. That's the coffee, tea, and milk. That's sensational.
Yeah, you throw a punch saying those people, the ones that are, giving his government.
Wait a second. Where the problem
make them they look like the evil liar.
Exactly. Against.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I still have got Wakili Gibson and Abdilahi in studio. We're going to talk about that. The cartels bankrolling Raila Odinga. Let's just talk about that when we come back shortly.
Look, where...
Welcome back. All right. We are still having some good time here in studio. Wakili is asking me to talk about his hometown. You know, Nyambaria Secondary School. Wakili, we'll talk about that. I know you have all the bragging rights right now.
Yeah.
Okay, but then back to politics and talk about President Ruto said, even in that clip, he said that Raila is being bankrolled and financed by the cartels in the tea, coffee and milk sector. The question is where, the locality, the location where that statement was made. A place where it is quite close to the hearts of the people who are directly affected, Central Kenya, Kerugoya in Kirinyaga. When you look at that, Wakili,
no.
What do you read in that? The president was just in Nyanza last week, and yesterday was in Kirinyaga, and he made that statement.
You know, the president is a wise politician. When he goes to Nyanza, he knows what to speak to the people of Nyanza, because, you got to be, for you to actually be able to go, the fire is gone, you have to be a very smart politician, which he is. So when he's in Nyanza, he knows anytime he speaks something which does not appeal to people, stones will be coming. And you can't like it as the president to be stoned. Kenyatta was stoned. Moi a couple of times, yes. Moi a couple of times had it rough going to Nyanza. So there is Kibaki, of course, abstained totally. Kenyatta tried once in a while to go, but also not a very rosy one. But so he knows what to give to the people to actually touch their hearts. So in Central, the key things she was speaking about, the bankrolling, what is dear to these people is coffee. Coffee prices have really gone down over time. Tea prices have gone down over time. Milk prices have gone down over time. So it's like these cartels who are stealing from you are actually funding the opposition to fight us, so that we don't deliver on our promises to you, that we'll be able to ensure that these prices go up.
Yes.
So he's appealing to these people and making them, trigger them to say, now whatever these opposition people are saying, we don't want them, because they're in bed with the people who are stealing from us. Remember, the key role of government to ensure that the prices are up.
Yes.
Who are these cartels? Produce them. Why have you not charged them? You see, that is something which they are not telling us. But then you will have gone a political discussion. And then there was the debate that, you know, he goes to Nyanza, lodges projects, and then comes to pray. Now, he was trying to cover, of course, much as he's coming to pray, he's also speaking to something which is related to our pockets, because the Central people really mind about their pockets. The Nyanza people, not much, but they want to see government goodies, which he delivered to them. Yes. So he's actually trying to balance the political debate and ensure that he maintains his bases and keeps growing them by the day.
Abdi, look at it this way. Jeremiah Kioni came out and said there is a whistleblower from IBC. They did not name the person on IBC, but he said there is a dossier and this is it. The president went to Kirinyaga and said there are cartels. He did not name the cartels. So it's now a point of left giving right. You punch me, I punch back.
Well, I think if you look at even the diary of the president, since he came to power, every Sunday or Saturday he was in a certain region. He does not want to leave Raila to Kenyans. He doesn't. He does not want to give Raila a chance for Ruto not to speak for a week. No, he should be there with something. So the people handling the diary of the president know what they're doing. They're dealing with a guy who was in government for the last 4 years. They're dealing with a guy who has been in opposition for most of his life. They're dealing with a guy who has fanatical following in the country, and a government that has Kioni. Kioni is the Secretary General of Jubilee. What is Jubilee today in Kenya? Jubilee is as good as dead. I mean, in this election, I don't think they will even get 10, 15 MPs. So right now, compare, you know, the Deputy President Gachagua, DG Nyoro, Mbarire, and Anne Waiguru. People who are very powerful in government right now. Anne Waiguru is the chair of the Council of Governors. We have Deputy President Gachagua handling certain works. Remember, there is a delegation. Remember, the Deputy President, the assistant, to the president, so he is delegated duties. Already, he is handling some issues under his office. So he's a very busy man, unlike Ruto, where the government shifted to Raila. So you look at the people speaking on behalf of Jubilee or Azimio in Central, an ambassador, and let me tell you, I contested 3 times. When you don't, you're defeated. Because I don't think people who contest are losers. They are not losers. Losers are those who cannot contest. The people who contest are defeated.
Yeah.
You don't get the numbers. This guy gets more numbers than you. Now, when you leave election, there are 2 groups of people. There are people who go back to their business. There are people who go back to their skill sets and work as a consultant or something. And then there are people who are around offices. They have to get either a parastatal chairman, an ambassador somewhere, like that.
Yeah.
A company, he has maybe a business. So it is different for different people depending on their character, on how you come out. If you are a hardstone, then you accept that you are defeated. Life goes on. You pick up the pieces and go. So look at the people who are lobbying right now. Who did Gachagua meet on Thursday? He met elected leaders. But he said he's not going to forget about our brothers who lost the election, and we will also meet them. What is he going to tell them? He's going to tell them, look, if you want contract, come to me. If you want employment for your daughter, bring her to me. If you want a job somewhere, if you are retired and you are 60, you want a chairman somewhere, tutakutupa hapo. If you want ambassador, hata kwenda North Korea, tutakutuma huko. We kujeni. So there are a lot of goodies on his table. And I am sure the president and the deputy president wants to solidify. Because this guy got central, including the 8 counties, including Laikipia, Nakuru, and central Kenya. They produce close to 50% of the government. So he wants to take that higher. So the Kionis and the Jubilees, Kanini was there. And Kanini Gega won because Kenya Kwanza supported him, isn't it? So what do you think he's going to, his loyalty is going to shift? Even Chege, Sabina Chege, very soon you'll be seeing her sitting behind the president and saying, we have a country, we have to run, we cannot be fighting, let's continue.
All right. So Wakili, at the end of the day, Raila is going to speak. Let's wait and see how it's going to pan out. Of course, that's happening late in the day. But reports also has it that Deputy President is also planning to meet Azimio-affiliated MPs.
Yes.
We have got Kamkunji happening here and Deputy President meeting Azimio-affiliated MPs. A catch-22 situation.
Yes, because that is what politics is. Much as you are trying to lay an attack on me, I'm also trying to attack your base. I'm also trying to steal from your plate. And as you are going to make those statements, I'll also be declaring that these people have moved to my side. Of course, taking away your credibility that your house is not in order. So it's a political counter, which of course I think they have seen. The political checkmate game is well under life. And now I think as Kenyans we need to be wary, because this is what we've been having for the last 10 years, that after election immediately we start talking about politics and then we lose the ball on development. So the president and his team really needs to move in strongly and assuage the Kenyans that, much as we are doing this engagement or tug of war with politics, we are still delivering on our promises. That is very key to Kenyans at this particular point.
All right. Gentlemen, I think we have to leave it at that and, of course, talk about something that is quite close to our hearts, of course. 2 months after break, 2020, 2021, 2022, now COVID happened and schools not go back to its normal calendar. But the exam that was released last week has left many people talking. When you look around now, students are reporting back to school. But your hometown, Nyamira, is talk of the town. What's happening in Nyambaria?
Nyambaria, what people actually don't know, that Nyambari is a national school.
Exactly, yes.
Yes, that's what
and
people...
Performance is,
and their performance is not something we just came to the fore. They have been performing highly, even actually they've been leading in the Kisii region, the former Nyanza region. Their score has been so high, it's only that it has never led nationally. So this was their time. Some other aspect which, of course, we need to inform Kenyans is that the former principal Maranda, the one who brought Maranda from the unknown to the known, is actually the former principal right now of Nyambaria. So his education workmanship or managerial skills came to play.
But generally speaking, I know that's something that my colleague is going to talk about in the next segment, but we all went through this 844 system, but then now a situation where a different school has A's all over, from a mean score of 5 to 9 or even to 10. Abdilahi, I don't know how it happened in
It was C plane. In 2021, it was C+. Today, it's B-. So there's been, you can't say they just cheated. There's a guy called Mahat, who is the young headmaster, who brought changes. Remember, the school's head will determine what happens in that school. It's now number 1 out of 59 schools. Remember, we have national schools,
yes,
extra county schools, and then county schools. Ramudimto Boys is a county school, but it has beaten extra county and national. That is Mandara Secondary School, Sheikh Ali Boy Girls, all of them. So what happens is this: I was in the school when I was campaigning, and I was partly volunteering to teach English literature. Now, what happens in that school is the headmaster said there is no going out unless you are permitted to go. There is no stepping out of this compound. So what did he do? There are 10 BOM and TSC teachers.
Yes.
Most of them are from down Kenya. So what he did is he built houses for them. They have sleeping there. He gave them free food, so they're earning their salary. So what happens is this: the teachers have nowhere to go. They're getting free food and they're getting free housing.
So you're motivated
no,
to work.
They're always there at night.
All right.
You see?
Okay.
So that is what needs to happen to these schools, that head teachers must bring measures that are very practical, involving the children, that you came here to build your future.
Yes.
This is what we are going to help you, but this is how we are going to do it.
Okay.
But cheating, we'll talk about it.
All right, gentlemen, I had to bring, because my colleague Ram is going to talk about that in the next segment. Of course, it's a discussion that many people have been talking about over the last few days. And of course, the pressure is on the Ministry of Education and even the school heads and teachers as well to maintain that kind of standard in the coming year. And the schools, which performed better, or the best schools nationally, the pressure is on you to maintain that. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the show. We're talking to Gibson Gisore, who's an advocate of the High Court and a political analyst. Always pleasure having you on the show, as well as Abdilahi Ahmed, who is a politician, by the way. He'll tell us what happened. With a lot of years of experience in politics, he's also a political commentator. Thank you so much for coming over to the show.
Thank you.
And you, the viewer, thank you so much for being with us. Let's take a break. Ramaguko with that issue of education. You don't have to go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back with more. Good morning.